I'm generally skeptical of large, publicly traded companies that decide to come out in support of social causes. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes they can and do support worthy causes. Just consider what some of America's largest companies have done in the wake of Hurricane Harvey. PepsiCo and Home Depot have pledged $1 million to the Red Cross for relief efforts. Amazon said it will match donations up to $1 million also to the Red Cross. Walmart has pledged $1 million to various relief agencies. Exxon and Lowe's have pledged $500,000 each, again to the Red Cross. And that's an easy sell. Even shareholders would be hard-pressed to criticise management for such decisions. Some of the public may complain that the sums pledged are paltry in comparison to what these companies make in profits. And then there are others that might object based on their inability to get over last year's election loss. Milton Friedman might object. He thought the sole purpose of a company was to maximise profits for the benefit of shareholders, of course within the constraints of the law. But whether or not you believe that corporations have some type of social responsibility, I think it pays to be sceptical about their underlying motives when they champion social causes. And so to this article from Quillette. And by the way, if you're into reading thoughtful articles on a wide range of topics, check out the Quillette website and follow them on Twitter. They do a lot of great work. The market for virtue, why companies like Qantas are campaigning for marriage equality. So for those that don't know, Qantas is Australia's largest airline and the CEO, Alan Joyce, is openly gay. Qantas CEO Alan Joyce has said he will be out there strongly campaigning for a yes vote in the upcoming marriage equality postal ballot. Dozens of other corporations have signed the Australian Marriage Equality Open Letter. But companies aren't being altruistic when they back causes like marriage equality. Research shows that executives pursue ethical behaviour because they think there is a business case for it. This is called the market for virtue, in which businesses aim to improve their public image or ward off regulation in exchange for ethical behaviour. But there's little evidence that social responsibility initiatives necessarily result in positive outcomes for business. In fact, it may result in worse outcomes for society as a whole, as businesses put their resources behind causes that are already popular and ignore pressing issues such as inequality and stagnating wage growth. And here is that list of companies that have backed the same-sex marriage cause. It's not surprising that companies jump on a popular cause. I mean, why would you back an unpopular one? That wouldn't be good for business. Perhaps the management teams of a lot of these companies genuinely believe that supporting same-sex marriage is the right thing to do. But how many of them would be vocal supporters if it were not a popular position? How many of them backed same-sex marriage a decade ago when both sides of politics were against changing the definition of marriage? So Alan Joyce makes a business case for supporting same-sex marriage by referencing a study from Deloitte Australia. That study, amongst other things, claims that 1 in 4 people were positively influenced over the past 12 months by an organisation's reputation as being supportive of marriage equality, and that increased to almost 1 in 2 for the gay community and adults under the age of 25. So what does it mean to be positively influenced? Well, on the next page they say that their buying choices were positively influenced. But in terms of Qantas, does that actually translate into more business? For example, here's a list of prices for a one-way flight from Sydney to Melbourne from Webjet. It doesn't matter what day you choose, Qantas is the most expensive. For example, on Thursday this week, Jetstar is $56 cheaper, Tiger Air $55 cheaper, and Virgin is $11 cheaper. Neither Jetstar or Tiger Air are on the list of companies supporting same-sex marriage. So are you willing to pay more for Qantas because they are publicly supporting same-sex marriage? And since Virgin is on the list of companies in support, why wouldn't you fly with Virgin and save $11 if you're cost conscious? Of course, there are many reasons why people might want to fly Qantas. They might prefer the service. They have frequent flyer miles. The company they work for has a corporate account with Qantas. And if they're reasonably well off, cost may not be an issue. But the point is, does signalling your virtue for a cause work, especially if at least some of your competitors are doing the same? Also, it should be said that neither Tiger Air or Jetstar are against same-sex marriage, but presumably they think competing on price is more important. So I think that would be an interesting question to ask. At what point does price override your ethical concerns? Now, not all corporate virtue signalling is the same. In the case of Qantas, the CEO is gay, and so it's a personal issue for him. As the article notes, executives are more likely to back a cause they strongly believe in. This may explain why Alan Joyce and Qantas are so prominent on this issue. Joyce is openly gay, and his personal contributions to the campaign show that his support is genuine. But this is single-issue politics, and executives and businesses have a narrower range of interest than society as a whole. While the corporate support of marriage equality is positive, on a broader scale the risk is that as businesses become political actors, the limits of their interests will increasingly shape public debate. Unsurprisingly, for example, tax avoidance is rarely mentioned in the corporate social responsibility reports produced by major corporations, despite its importance in education, healthcare and poverty elimination. Instead, corporations focus on other forms of nominally ethical behaviour such as environmental and diversity programs. So I probably differ on the importance of more tax dollars going towards government programs, especially in the case of education, where more money has resulted in worse outcomes. But I do share the idea that there are more important societal issues to address, and tax evasion would be higher on my list than same-sex marriage. However, I'd prefer that corporations just stayed out of the virtue signalling game altogether and concentrated on delivering better quality and lower cost products and services. Now, of course, there are a range of factors that influence corporate performance. However, these charts, courtesy of the Contrarian Marketplace, suggest that virtue signalling doesn't necessarily lead to better corporate performance and may in fact sometimes backfire. You may recall Starbucks took a hit when they announced they plan to hire refugees earlier this year. Also in that Deloitte report was the finding that 13% of people reported that their buying choices were negatively influenced by an organisation's reputation as supportive of some type of diversity measure. For me personally, I'm more interested in price than social issues when it comes to making purchasing decisions. But if there were no difference in price, I might be negatively influenced if I believe a company were just virtue signalling on a certain issue. Now, some people take it that one step further. You might remember this man that pushed a pie into Alan Joyce's face. Here it is again, in case you missed it.
Since I've been here to announce the...
Heck.
I don't know what that was about. Excuse me. I might take a break for a second, guys, and just clean up a little bit.
Well, I've been CEO of Qantas now for close to 9 years, and it was a new experience. I haven't experienced that before.
Notice that the crowd in the room laughed, and Joyce showed a lot of composure for someone that had just taken a pie to the face. So apparently the 67-year-old man, Tony Overhu, said that he had no grudge against Mr. Joyce, but that he had decided to attack him as a stance against people in high places using their positions to make political statements. Well, there was probably a better way to register your protest, Tony, but what was interesting was how Qantas elected to deal with it. He was found guilty of assault and trespass and fined $3,600. He was even banned from his own church, but Qantas took the extra step of banning Mr. Overhu for life from flying on the airline. Now that seems over the top for a pie in the face. Perhaps I'm old school, but similar incidents in the past used to be seen as part of being a public figure. Perhaps a better strategy would have been to take the opposite tack and say we should feel sorry for this confused, bigoted old man and offered him a free flight to next year's Mardi Gras. What annoys me in all this is not that companies are trying to appeal to as broad a customer base as possible. Of course they would do that. It's the moral grandstanding, the idea that you're fighting the good fight, when in reality it's a popular cause and therefore easy to support. I mean, what do you really have to do other than issue a press release? And even in Joyce's case, as someone who truly believes in the cause, there's something on the nose about using corporate resources for your own personal hobby horse. It may be different if it were Joyce's own company that he built from the ground up, but at the end of the day, he, like most CEOs, is a hired gun. I have to admit that the actions of Qantas do make me negatively disposed towards them, and I say that as someone that intends to vote yes for same-sex marriage. So I guess to ensure that I'm not being a hypocrite, I should ask myself a question: what if a company was vocally supporting a pet issue of mine? Would I be more positively disposed towards them? Probably, but when it comes to purchasing decisions, cost and quality far outweigh social concerns. If the good guys want to sell me the same TV for $150 less than JB Hi-Fi, even though JB are publicly advocating for the repeal of 18C, I'm still going to go with the good guys. And perhaps that's the difference. Those that can afford to care more about social issues are willing to exercise that concern through their wallet, while the rest of us are primarily concerned with getting value for money. So, are your purchasing decisions influenced by social causes, or are you more concerned with getting a good deal? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you next time.